Hi, everybody. My name is Carl Darden, and I'd like to welcome and thank all of you for joining us today here on Navy Sports Central. I'm your host, and this is the official podcast of the Navy Sports Nation, where we take a deeper dive into Navy sports. In this episode, we will do a quick recap of the Navy-Temple football game and talk about what things look like going into the last 4 games of the season. We will also talk some men's and women's cross country and some of the outstanding athletes on those 2 teams that helped them defend their titles as Patriot League champions. And finally, I'll have a very special guest joining me to preview the women's indoor track season. All that plus our question of the day and mid-watch segments are coming up next, so don't go anywhere. All right, it is great to have you all here with us as we head into the last couple months of the year. This is our 40th Navy Sports Central episode, so whether you are a regular listener or you're joining us for the first time, thanks for making us part of your day. We've got a fair amount of ground to cover, so let's go ahead and get right to it with a look back at the Mids win over Temple last Saturday. This was a really physical game, and that's usually the case when the Owls are lined up on the other side of the ball. It was no different on Saturday, and the ironic thing is the most serious injury the Mids suffered came on a non-contact play. We all know now that quarterback Ty Lavatai's knee injury that came with just over 3 minutes to go in the first quarter has basically ended his season. And this is a tough blow for a kid who's come a long way as a quarterback over the last 2 years. If you follow our show or you check in on the Navy Sports Nation group Facebook page, you'll know that I've been a big Lavatai fan pretty much since the 2021 spring practices when he made such a big impression. He improved with just about every game last season, and when he led the team to that huge win over Army, Lavatai became just the 3rd sophomore quarterback in the triple option era to accomplish that feat. You know, it was interesting. As soon as he left the game, you could see the impact it had on the team. The offense was pretty sluggish except for that nice drive they had in the third quarter that ended in Anton Hall's 15-yard touchdown run. But I will give Xavier Arline a lot of credit. He got off to kind of a rocky start, and things just did not look good when that Temple defender basically knocked down his pitch and recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. Most people would have really been demoralized by that, but Arline is really good at putting stuff like that behind him and moving on. He plays with a ton of confidence, and that's the attitude he's going to have to lead the Mids the rest of the year. Arline's running ability does give the offense an extra explosive element, but it's going to be super important for him to be able to throw the ball well enough to keep opposing defenses from stacking the box. I did see him execute a couple of nice throws when he got some playing time last year. In fact, one of them was a terrific pass he delivered with some touch to Chance Warren against Temple, in fact, and it went for a score. And I believe it was the second quarter. Navy ended up winning that game 38-14. But in that pass, he had to get it over defender, and Warren was kind of tucked in the back of the end zone. So that was a really nice throw, which tells me that Arline is capable of doing those kinds of things, in game time situations. So if he can complete 8 to 10 passes a game like that, it should keep the defenses from crowding the line of scrimmage to stuff the run. Because if one of the slot backs or the receivers gets into the clear and Arline can deliver the ball, the offense is just going to have a field day. That touchdown Arline scored in overtime to give the Mids the win gives you a pretty good idea of how dangerous he is. We'll see how things go the rest of the season. The fact that the Mids won't be playing another true home game could make things kind of tough, but who knows what'll happen? I mean, that could be a motivating factor for them too. Now, when I looked at the game using the 5 factors like we've done in the previous games, Navy came out ahead in starting field position, finishing drives, and turnovers. Now, on average, they began their drives on their own 41-yard line versus the 26-yard line for Temple, and that was largely because of those 2 turnovers deep in Temple territory in the first half. And when we talk about finishing drives, the Mids scored on 5 of their 6 possessions inside the Owls' 40-yard line for 27 points. Meanwhile, Temple only got inside Navy's 40 4 times, and they scored on 3 of those occasions for a total of 13 points. Now, Temple did do better in the explosiveness category. They picked up about 4.2 yards per play versus 3.1 for Navy. And both teams were even in the efficiency category at 32% each. But those Owls turnovers really cost them. The muffed punt and Elias Larry's interception turned into 10 points for the Mids, and Deshaun Peel's interception ended the game. So the Mids are now 3-3 in conference play, matching last year's win total, and they've got Cincinnati and Central Florida left on their schedule. Okay, that's going to do it for the football. And now I'd like to move on and talk about a couple of teams that closed out their seasons with another Patriot League championship. And of course, I'm referring to the men's and women's cross country team. Bucknell University hosted the meet, and both teams put together some strong performances to defend their titles. So let's go ahead and start with the women. They capped off a terrific year by saving the best for last. The Mids won 2 invitational meets during the season and finished third in another, and of course they earned Navy's second star of the year by beating Army. At the league championships, the women placed 9 runners in the top 20 and 5 in the top 11 to take home the hardware. Emily Booten, who is a junior from Chicopee, Massachusetts, finished first to win the individual gold medal. She covered the 6K course in 20 minutes, 36.8 seconds. Ellie Abraham was the next Navy finisher. She came in 7th overall, and she was followed by Sophie Compton, Elizabeth Sullivan, and Mia Claire Cazal, who finished 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively. Compton, who is a freshman, clocked a time of 21:29.5 to finish just ahead of Sullivan, who is a senior. Her time was 21:30.6, and Cazal was at 21:30.9. And by the way, Cazal is another freshman, so a really strong showing from the underclassmen from Navy. Those 5 runners gave the Mids the 38 points they needed, which was 19 better than second-place Army. Navy coach Kim Lunis made a point of singling out the seniors on a team like Alana Julius, Emily Ettrich, and Captain Winter Bose. She said that they did an incredible job of establishing a team culture that every athlete bought into, and the fact that the underclassmen performed at such a high level throughout the season pretty much bears that out. So a huge shout-out to the women's cross-country team for winning their second consecutive Patriot League title. The men's team season actually mirrored the women's pretty closely. They also won 2 invitationals and, of course, beat Army as well on their way to defending the Patriot League title. Sam Keeney led the way for the team. He was among the leaders the entire 8K race and eventually finished second with a time of 24 minutes, 35.1 seconds. And he was immediately followed by teammates Alex Rizzo and Brett Brady, who took third and fourth. Rizzo finished with a time of 24 minutes, 44.2 seconds, and he was just ahead of Brady, who came in at 24 minutes and 46 seconds flat. Garrison Clark was a couple spots behind them, coming in at 24 minutes, 58.3 seconds. And the 5th Navy runner to finish was Mitchell Rome in 17th place, and that was what gave the Mids their 32 points to secure the win. Army was next with 50 points. So, great job to the men's cross-country team for nailing down that second straight Patriot League title. All right, that takes care of our sports update. Our deep dive segment is next, and you're not going to want to go anywhere for this one. I've got a really special guest joining me, and she's going to help me break down how things look for the women's indoor track team this winter. Stay with us. Okay, we are back, and I am very excited to have today's guest joining me on the podcast. She is a member of the women's track and field team, and she is here to share some of her experiences as well as give us an idea of some of her teammates that we should be keeping an eye on this season. So I am very happy to welcome Molly Mangan from the class of 2023 to Navy Sports Central. Molly, thanks so much for taking the time to visit today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. You are originally from Pittsburgh, and I know that just based on what I've read, that you do have a history of track and field in your family. I guess your dad competed as well as a couple of aunts. So when did you first get exposed to track?
Yeah, so my family was big track and field and cross country. There was like a Mangan dynasty back in like the 80s in my hometown.
Uh-huh.
I was never my dad never sat me down and was like, you're going to do track. Basically, I was a very hyper child. I would run laps around my house, and there was a giant hill next to my house. So I would run partly up it and then run down. I would also bike up that hill and bike around the neighborhood. So I think it was one night, in order to get energy, get the energy out, my dad took me to our local track, and then I literally just ran a mile. I think I just did several 400s, just because I was a kid and I was just full of energy. So after that fateful night, my dad signed me up for his friend's USATF club track, Wings of Moon, and I then competed. I actually didn't really compete with them. I think it was too late in the season to compete with Wings of Moon, but I ended up running my first ever race. It was a 200 at the Cal U Championship. So yeah, that was my claim to fame, and that was back in 2008. I believe I was 7 going on 8. Or, yeah. Sorry, yeah, 2008, 7 going on 8. So I've been running for about 14 years right now. Yeah.
All right, very good. So besides that, you've got a bunch of other interests, including one thing I noticed was robotics. Talk to me a little bit about that. Did you sign up for, was it a high school team or was it a club team that was like kind of in your community?
Yeah, so I started robotics back in middle school, and I was doing Lego robotics with a Boys and Girls Club in Pittsburgh, Sarah Hines' house. And so I was doing Lego robots, and that's just like the little bots. You just program them. It's pretty fun. It's pretty good. And then we would go to competitions. So I did all of my robotics competitions through the First Robotics organization, and they run everything from like preschool. They have preschool robots, and then you have everything up to like high school / college. So I basically just progressed through their program. I did FLL, First Lego League, and I didn't really do any of their kind of like intermediate stuff, but then I went to high school. So starting in freshman year of high school, I started their First Robotics, which is the bigger robots.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, what does like a typical team competition look like? And when it comes to the different things you got to program the robots to do, what's the most complex thing that you've had to do with your team?
Okay. Yeah. So in First Robotics and for FRC, First Robotics Competition, that is the big high school one. In January, you get this. It's like one weekend in January where you get the game for that year, and it's a big grand reveal of like the game and the rules and stuff like that. So on that day, like you hear the rules together with your team, and then you start plotting or like planning how you're going to tackle that issue. And then so that goes from like January up until I think the international competition is like in May. So you get a couple months to like work on it and try to make it as far. You can go to regionals or like nationals, and you can go to like basically worlds. The most complex, anything that is autonomous, which is the robot doing something itself. You're not just like with a controller. That is very difficult. That's kind of what my major is right now, robotics and control engineering. So you would always get extra points during competitions if you were able to get your robot to successfully complete an autonomous task, like shooting a ball into a basket or like stacking bins.
Oh, cool.
Or like balancing itself. But that was always like the most difficult. I think those were always our stretch goals.
All right. Pretty neat. Years ago, I led a little summer program for the elementary school kids, building little robots to do little stuff. But that's why I asked that question, is because I think those things are just so cool. My brother-in-law actually worked in robotics for a while. He used to work for DARPA, and I'm thinking, dude, you got like the coolest job in the world. You get to go to work and play with robots all day long. So, anyway, okay, so you got that, and of course you're a really great athlete in high school. So I got to figure at some point you probably did pop up on the Naval Academy's radar. How did you first hear about that as a potential opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a real academic weapon, as they would say. So I wasn't like on the, Ivy League, scout them out. No, I was interested in the military starting like eighth grade, going on ninth grade. So I wanted to enlist, honestly. That just seemed like a cool job opportunity. But then, I had to consider like my future and like getting a college degree. So I think I was just looking online. I think I was like on the Army or like Navy enlisted website, and then somehow, I don't know how, but I found my way onto the Naval Academy site.
Mm-hmm.
And, I filled out one of the sports questionnaires where you like list what you do, what your best times are or something, and then you send it virtually. Because at the end of my ninth grade year in high school, I then got an interest letter, a recruiting letter, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I replied back to that, and that was basically how the ball got rolling. I went on unofficial visit to Navy for track. I went to summer seminar. I went on an official visit, and then I ended up coming. So, yeah.
Okay, very good. So now I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody who's gone to the academy or is there now. It's I-Day. It's nighttime. The whole first day is done. Your head hits the pillow. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, it's funny. I have to like unbox the I-Day memories, unbox the Fleet Summer memories. I don't know. My friends and I, we always say, like, I don't remember anything from Fleet Summer. So I'm going to take my best guess at what I was actually thinking, because I don't recall. I think it was probably like, okay, 1 down, 49 to go. Honestly, like, I'm very goal-oriented, so if I start something, I'm there to finish it. That's literally it. Like, because I didn't even know that much about Fleet Summer, what it was about. I was just like there to get it done.
Right.
Start my year, yeah, basically. So.
Okay, now let's get things started with some track and field talk. And just so you know, I'm a total junkie when it comes to this sport. And if you let me, I will just go forever. But I want to respect your time, so we'll try to keep things nice and tight. You're a sprinter, okay?
Yes.
And I started kind of following you about, I guess it was about the beginning of your sophomore year, during that winter track season. So really, I guess sophomore year period, not the beginning. But one thing I noticed is you got quite a bit of range. I know in the indoors, they start at 60 meters, and I know that might not be in your wheelhouse, but I've seen you run it before, I believe. And then, of course, you progress all the way through. So give me a rundown on the events that you run, and how does it compare to both indoors and outdoors?
Yeah, when you basically got it. I got a good range of events I can do. Whenever someone asks me, like, hey, what do you do? I sprint. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, okay, well, I can do anything from the 60 meter up to the 400 meter, and I do the sprint relays, the 4x1 and 4x4. And you're looking at indoors, I'm doing the 60, and it's like, I guess it's not my main event, but I do frequently run the 60 at our like star meet and like conference meets. I'll almost always do the 200. That's like my event. I feel like, I don't know if coach would agree, but that's like my event, the 200. I'll run the 400. I have not really run the open 4 a lot, but I will almost always run the 4x4 relay, at least in any of our high level events. And so that's for indoor. And then outdoor, it's basically the same thing, except the 60 is replaced by the 100. And then we also slap in a 4x100. So for most of my star meets or Patriot League, it's been 100 meter, 4x100, 200, and 4x4.
Okay. All right. Good.
I've ran a couple open 400s outdoor, but not a ton. Yeah.
Now, I got the sense that the 200 was your favorite event. Which one do you find the most challenging?
The most challenging is anything that you put a hurdle in. That's the most difficult. I actually was a decent 300 hurdler back in high school. I ran the 300 hurdles. I made Pennsylvania AAA second place 2 years in a row. So I was going for the gold, didn't really make it, but I had a decent hurdle time. I don't hurdle a lot anymore. I've hurdled handful of times in college. But I used to tell people, like, I hate the hurdles because it's just running with obstacles. Like, I would just rather just plow through them.
Right. Right.
Why do the hurdles have to be there? So, like the 400 hurdles. That's the 400, 800, and like the 2 mile are probably like 3 of the hardest events in track and field, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. So let's look at the indoor season specifically. And I always like to kind of give some attention to the field events too. When you are out at a meet, what are your favorite field events to watch?
When I read that question, I had to laugh a little bit because that implies that I watch field events. No shade to my comrades in arms. So I do watch some of them, I'm not to say. Like, I don't just ignore them, but I usually am in my own sprinter lane because I am I mean, I've asked Coach fucking long jump sometime, but I haven't done that yet. So,
Okay.
but I love the pole vault. That's pretty cool. Like that's a hard event. That's like you can't just pick up a pole vault and then vault. Like you can technically just run down a long jump runway and then jump into the pit, but nobody's like picking up a pole and then just being like, oh yeah, let me just fling myself into the air.
That's true. I was talking with one of my classmates who ran track when I was there, and we had this conversation as well. And I told her if I ever did pole vaulting, I would get vertigo, and because you're like doing so many different things at the same time, and I would just get lost and probably break my neck. But yeah, I'm totally with you there. Now, I'm trying to recall her name, and I'm not sure if she's your classmate or you're behind you. I think she is your class, who's a pole vaulter. Last name starts with an M.
Yeah, so that's going to be Charlie and Murky.
Yeah.
And then so we also in my class for the pole vaulters, we have Stephanie Jacobs.
Okay. Yeah. I do remember those two names from last year quite a bit, seeing them right there in the thick of things all the time at the different invitationals and certainly at the league championships. So very cool. Okay. So what about the sprints and the long distances? Who are the ones that we can stick with sprints, or if we can morph into the long distances? Who are some of the ones that as a fan I should be watching out for during this indoor season?
Yeah, we got starting at the sprints. We got a really stellar cast of freshman guys last year. So that's Jacques Guillaume, John Simmons, and Jay Evans. Those three like basically dominated our 400 type races last year in the relays, and so I would definitely watch out for them this year. Like it's really great to have a young team and like a young talented team. So I'd say Navy male sprints are set for a good while. Army can sweat about that. Yeah. For girls, so we did get 2 good freshmen this year, just working on developing them and stuff like that. So got those 2, Gia Anderson, Faria Hakeem. We have my underclassman, Helen West. We got Sabrina Sutter, my OG teammate. She's fun. Sabrina's a great person and a great sprinter. She's funny. We like to joke around with each other. So yeah, she's been my ride or die since day one.
All right. Good stuff. So, and you kind of mentioned this before, but you've been one of the, I guess, cornerstones, if you want to use that word, of the sprint relay team since you got there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because that's one of my favorite events to watch, whether it's the Olympics or the World Championships or any collegiate meet as well. I was wondering if you could kind of speak to what sort of elements are crucial in terms of putting together a consistent, relay team, one that goes out there and can compete in every meet every single time.
Yeah. Getting a consistent relay team requires consistent runners. And that means people who are going to give their best performance no matter the circumstance or the conditions, which is hard to find. And that is hard to find people like that. So it's like people aren't really born tough, they're made tough. So on the team, we just try to foster grit and resiliency. It's like, oh, but that's hard. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do it because it's hard, because you're going to have worse conditions during a meet, because you're going to be tired, and then someone's going to ask you to run the 4x4. So, yeah, success is building consistent runners. Not everybody is going to be like that. You can try to make somebody tough, but that's not necessarily going to make them consistent. So out of the people you try to harden, you run them, you test them, and then you see, like, can you put down a good split no matter if it's like pouring rain outside, like last outdoor Patriots, and it's windy and you're cold and you are also tired? Because I have never run a star meet or Patriot League 4x4 where I was totally rested. It does not happen. Right. You've already run 2 or 3 events. So you got to find the people who are going to dig deep inside themselves and give you a good performance no matter what.
Okay. So, and I know sometimes that these races might tend to kind of blend together, but I'm wondering if you could kind of go back in your data bank there and come up with a relay race that you thought was practically flawlessly run, and kind of walk us through that. What made it such a good race for you guys?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, because there's one 4x4, indoor 4x4, that stands out to me. Well, I'm kind of sad that you said you started watching me my sophomore year, because you missed a hell of a freshman indoor season. So I'm gonna take us back to that one.
Okay.
And we actually, so we have video of my freshman year Army Navy indoor, and it plays in our lobby. So sometimes I'll walk in and I'll just see that relay running. So context: the entirety of the women's meet has gone on until the 3K, and so that's towards the end. That's basically, I think it's 3,000 and that's 4x4.
Right. Those are the last couple of events.
Yeah, and we're leading Army, but we're like not beating them. We didn't hit our point quota that captures the meet. And I forget her last name, but her first name was Emily. She was a firstie. She was not slated to win the 3K. So we were thinking it was going to come down to the 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, I had just run a hell of a 200. A hell of a 200. I run a 60. I had run a hell of a 200. And I'm on the ground because I'm tired. And my teammates are trying to get me to like walk around, stand up, shake off my legs because like I need to do that. There was about like 20 minutes between like the end of the 200 and the beginning of the 4x4. We have not won yet. We have not cinched the meet. I'm tired, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna have to run this. Like this is like freshman Molly Mangan, like trying to gather every ounce of strength I can. I'm like recovering, and it comes down to the 3K comes down to like the last straight, and it's like Emily and I forget who other Army runner, but they're like the Army runner was in front of her. Their Army runner was in front of her, and I think she was just like slowly gaining on her, just like slowly. It came down to like the last, like I think it was like 5 or 10 meters. Like everyone's holding their breath. Like we're watching that. Beats the Army runner at the line, wins the 3K, and captures the meet. So that was pretty sweet. So we knew we won. I went from being like dead on the ground to like let's go, let's kill him, let's go. So we're like this relay. So I was like energized. I mean, someone had just supercharged my battery. I was no longer tired. I didn't know what the word tired meant. And we get out there, so we're like, so it's our 4x4 time. I'm then there with Chelsea Edwards, Chloe Alfieri, who was our third runner. But sorry, we had a third runner, and then so we're out there, we're ready, we're getting ready, and I don't know how I had the gall in me, but I was talking to like all my upperclassmen. I was like, "Okay, guys, let's go. I know we're tired, but we need to go. We need to run." I was there with a freshman that was like talking at me like that. I would be like, "Who are you?" But yeah, we just go, we execute, we got our handoffs off pretty well, all right enough, and then I remember I'm just watching the video, like I watch that thing a lot because it's in our lobby. I just see myself like get the baton, I just take off, like I probably went out too fast. But I was excited, like I was amped. So we bring it around, and then we cross the finish line. The meet's over, and we had broken a 6-year-long losing streak. The women had. So that was amazing. We all just went insane. That was probably like a race to remember, especially because it was my freshman year. Like, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but it's pretty hard to get freshmen accustomed to like running a relay or something like that with multiple events. Right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, that's pretty cool recap there. I appreciate that. So let's kind of stick with teammates a little bit, and I'm kind of looking at just the recent track record of the women's team. You've got 4 straight Patriot League Championships indoors, and I believe the same is true for outdoors. What would you say the team's greatest strength is? I mean, that's pretty. We're talking about consistency. That's pretty strong, and obviously there's got to be some common thread there that allows you to perform at that level. So I was wondering if you could kind of share your thoughts on that. What would you characterize as your team's greatest strength?
Yeah, in my opinion, Navy's greatest strength is like the work hard, play hard mentality. I think a lot of other teams, I'm not going to try to bash the league, but I think a lot of other teams in the league, they have the play hard mentality, but I'm not so sure that, at least with their program's history and the kind of people they recruit, that they're like so into the buy-in of like, this is an intense sport and I'm here to crush. Because we compete we compete at meets, but we also compete in practice. And whenever you're running like a rep with a teammate, or you're doing block starts or something like that, like you're running to beat the people next to you. And that's because we are intense and we are like, I'm here to crush everybody. At the same time, we're friends. So, we're going out, we're having fun with each other.
Right.
We have our spring break San Diego trip. We'll go have a ton of fun at the beach. But then at the same time, we go to the track and we just kill it. We go to take names. We go to end some bloodlines. We're there to crush every day, all day. And then we bring that to our meets. We're like, we take ourselves seriously as athletes, and we never think like, oh, this is just a sport. No, we're like, this is a trophy. This is a PR. This is, I'm trying to win.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. I remember talking with, before RJ got there, the guy who was handling, track and field in the SI's office. I actually emailed him one time because I caught a quote from your director, Coach Cook, and he was talking about everybody's like kind of bought into the culture in terms of what we do in practice. So I said, what did he mean by that? So I emailed him. I emailed the guy and I said, hey, I'm doing a story and for my blog on the track team. Can you help me understand this quote a little bit better? And he told me basically exactly what you just said in terms of just competing in practice and the different methods that he had developed to do that, basically just spotting somebody 20 or 30 meters and then running to see if you can create like photo finishes at the end and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty creative. So, that's something that is pretty cool to see. So along those lines, if you had to pick one or two teammates that really push you hard during practice and to kind of help ensure that you're going to be ready to go on the day of the meet, who would you say that is?
I honestly, being here for 4 years means that a lot of the teammates I've worked with have kind of come and gone in their own ways, either graduating or else. So the people who have pushed me really are just any teammates who I see a quality or a skill in them that they're better at than me. So my freshman year, we had our indoor captain, Regine Tugade, super quick. Usually ran nothing longer than the 200, but she had a hell of a start. And we would get in the blocks, we'd be practicing, and she would just smoke me, just absolutely destroy me. But that made me just want to get better. That made me want to have a quicker start. I mean, I'm certain that I only had the 60 dash time that I had freshman year because of Regine, because she pushed me in practice to have a quicker start. And then going forward through the years, it's like, Chloe Alfieri used to kick my butt during repeats in practice, and Chelsea and all of them. Like, so now it's just anybody who I see even has I perceive as having a higher drive, like they're working harder, or they're doing, they're finishing stronger, like, Helen or Sabrina. It's like, if I think you're besting me, like that just makes me want to work harder.
Right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. So, next question here I'm going to ask, and it's actually pretty timely because I didn't really realize this until maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, is that this year marks the 50th anniversary of the passage of Title IX. Okay. And even though there was like the beginnings of some intercollegiate sports for women in the 60s, it was really based on, which college felt like they were forward thinking enough to try and carve out a little bit of money to put towards them. Right. So, before that, you could basically say that women's collegiate sports, or even down to the high school level, it wasn't really there, and certainly didn't have any kind of support, even if it was, right? So with the passage of Title IX, that really opened up the doors for this to happen, both at the high school level, certainly at the college level, and that sort of thing. And when I look back to when I went to the academy, you figure the first women's graduating class was 1980. So I kind of pull that period out from 1980 through 87. Actually, I'd say 76 through 87, because that's when the women first got there. Those athletes were really, I consider, pioneers in terms of just getting athletic programs for the women launched at the Naval Academy, whether it was moving from club to the varsity level, or going from Division II to Division I, what have you. So I know that obviously all that's happened before your time, but I was wondering if you could kind of reflect on that a little bit and recognize that, okay, before 1972, the chances of me even competing in sports at the collegiate level were very, very slim. And now you see the positioning of the women's teams at the academy. I mean, quite frankly, they are some of the star teams of the Patriot League, depending on where you're talking about track, soccer, lacrosse, So I was wondering if you can kind of share your thoughts on that a little bit and talk to me a little bit about how much sports has really impacted your life.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it's hard to kind of understand the magnitude of the change brought by Title IX, just because of the fact that I have lived my entire life basically playing any sport that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Title IX was back in the 70s. I wasn't even a thought back in the 70s, Like, I'm May 26, 2001. That's when the world met Molly Mangan.
Right.
So it is hard to comprehend stuff that happened to me, like, way before my time. But you do feel like a deep sense of gratitude once you meet graduates of the 80s, like female graduates of the 80s, of the 90s,
mm-hmm.
and even the early 2000s, even 2010s, you hear about their stories and the kind of crap they had to deal with for just being a woman and having the gall to
mm-hmm.
go to the Naval Academy.
Right.
The fact that, like, the first classes of women, like, the guys did not like them.
Oh, you're right.
They were not treated well, especially Black female midshipmen. They were all but driven out of the academy, but still, like, they persisted. So just talking to them, you get a real gratefulness for them having paved the way and made my job easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then so in more recent years, we got our current head coach, Coach Jamie Cook, and he, like, combined the men and women's track and field and cross country programs. So we've even grown closer since then, and I really appreciate that, because I think it would have been totally different if I had come into, like, a non-co-ed team. If I had just come into, like, a gendered team, I don't think we would have had the cohesiveness or the kind of, like, winning mindset that we have now. And so that ties into just sports in my life. It's given me confidence. It's given me a knowledge that I have skills and that I am a competitor and that I am willing to work and to drive, that I am willing to sacrifice things and work hard.
Yeah, that's well put. I appreciate that. And hats off to Coach Cook in terms of the vision he had for putting those two teams together, because it's clear. I mean, I watch you guys a lot on, anytime I can pick you up on ESPN Plus or something like that. And there is clearly, because you can see what's going on in the background, there's clearly a tight bond between both teams when you see the events being run, and the support that you get from your fellow teammates. So that is really, really cool to see. All right. I tell you what, we're going to step away for a short break. And when we come back, we'll finish up our conversation with Navy sprinter Molly Mangan. All right. Thanks for staying with us on Navy Sports Central. Carl Darden here with you. And we've been talking today with Molly Mangan from the Navy Women's Track and Field team. So, Molly, we're about done with all the heavy lifting as far as the questions go, but I always like to finish up with some fun ones so the audience can get to know my guests a little bit better. So there's about 5 coming at you. And I'll start out by asking you one that you've heard before. Because I picked it up and you spoke with Phil Bergman, I think, sometime last year. And it is, what's your biggest pet peeve?
So, I mean, you already know what it is, but the audience, okay, it's I'm walking through Rickover, the halls of Rickover, Rick Under, really. That's what we call it. That's the underneath Rickover. That's Rick Under. I'm
That's
walking
right.
through,
Yeah.
and there's a group of 3 people having a conversation, like next to each other. The hallways are not wide. They are not built to support 3 or 4 people walking next to each other. So it's like, oh, I hate that, because then I'm either, and they're always slow, mind you, like they're never talking in speed walking. They're like at a leisurely pace. So it's like, I come behind them and I either have to like slow down egregiously, or I have to like speed up, like to like a weirdly fast level. And then I have to go around them and then through. No, I hate that. So if you're talking and walking and you have like 2 or 3 people or 4, like you gotta tuck behind. You gotta do like 1 in the front, 2 in the back, or like 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Like that's my biggest pet peeve to this day. Yeah.
Right. So first of all, I'm totally with you there. Second of all, when I heard your answer, I said, yeah, that's a sprinter talking.
Yeah. Yeah. I speed walk everywhere. I speed walk, I run. People are like, why are you running? I'm like, because I can. I don't know, so fast.
You're right. Right. All right. Real good. Okay. Most nagging injury you've ever had to overcome?
Yeah. So, I guess my teammates and my coaches know more about this than like the average fan, but I actually strained my left hamstring last November. That was about a week before Thanksgiving, and I ran the entirety of last year with a partially strained hamstring, and I also had scar tissue, and still do, in my left hamstring. So that's been my longest, worst nagging injury. It's going on a year now, and I'm doing just about everything under the sun I can. So I'm definitely in a better spot health-wise now than like about halfway through last season. But I'm still working on things, just rehabbing and getting after it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Your hamstrings can be a pain. In fact, we've got to apply some relative context here, but I still try to get out and run about 10 or 12 miles a week. And sometimes I push a little bit too hard, and I kind of tweaked mine about 2 weeks ago. And I went out to run and test it yesterday, and it's still not quite right. So I get totally what you're saying there. Okay. Funniest or strangest thing you've ever seen in a meet, and you can go back to either your high school and club days as well.
Yeah. So I thought about this. There's a lot of weird things that happen at track meets. I mean, I've seen a 100-year-old run the 100-meter. I've seen people barf and puke and do everything. But I mean, like strangest thing is probably something that happened to me.
Uh-huh.
And this is way back in the day. This is USATF club track. I don't recall the year. I think it was probably like 2013 or 2012. This is me. This is little Molly. This is a little short stack running track. And I was high jumping, and this was at the USATF California University regional meet. And I don't know why, but at that point in time, I really wanted a pet rat. So this is pertinent to the story. I really wanted a pet rat. And I ended up being the only jumper left. I ended up being the last high jumper, and I still had attempts to make. So I think it was right before I was attempting the regional record. So that was the big thing. I was attempting the regional record, and I knew it. If I cleared it, I would have the regional record. So beforehand, I run over to my dad, who's like on the fence dividing the track. He's like watching. I was like, hey, Dad. I was like, if I make this jump, can I get a pet rat? He can barely hear me, because meanwhile, this is like a track meet. People are running, like the announcer's going off. I'm like, Dad, can I get a pet rat if I make this jump? I don't even think he heard me really, but he was like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. So I go over, I get my starting position. I do my run, and then I clear it. I clear the height. So I had effectively won my pet rat. Yeah, that was the time I high jumped for a rat. That's my weirdest story, I guess.
That's pretty good. And I don't think I'll ever hear another one like that again. Okay, a couple more and we'll be done. First word that comes to mind when you hear this name, Sydney McLaughlin.
Legend, icon, iconic, just insane, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's elaborate on that a little bit because I never get tired of watching her. And the thing that is so scary is she's doing all that in the 400 hurdles. And we talked about, your feeling about having hurdles in your way when you run a 400. There's talk that she's going to start running the open quarter.
Yes.
Which sounds like pretty scary business to me. What do you think about that?
I think that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, people wanted to see her run the 400, the open 4, because of the fact that her hurdle time is so fast. It's like because usually I believe hurdling usually adds about, for the pros, it's maybe 2 or 3 seconds, but that's still a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in theory, Sydney McLaughlin is a world title contender in the open 400.
Right.
Definitely
right.
Untested as of yet, but that's going to be one of the biggest matchups of the decade of the century. I don't know, just seeing Sydney McLaughlin in the open 4 against some of our best currently in the open 4. That's just going to be awesome. I'm definitely stoked to see that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that's going to be something else. Okay, and then the last question here. What is the most exciting sprint relay race you've ever seen, either in the Olympics or in the World Championships?
Yes. So I didn't get to see it live. And you know why? Because I was on an amphib. I was on the USS Arlington during this last Olympics when they were running the 4x4. So, oh my gosh! As an anchor, as a 4x4 runner, I was this is it. This is the race of the century. It was the U.S. women's dream team. You had Sydney McLaughlin, you had Allison Felix, you had Athingmo, and it was Dalilah Muhammad, I believe, the fourth runner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It was literally every celebrity or famous 400 hurdler runner at that time, just they just threw him in a relay, literally. To me that equals the basketball dynasty, Olympic team. That is the team. All I wanted to do was to watch it live. I could not. We were on an exercise off of the coast of Camp Lejeune, but
wow.
But I did hear about it. I did get to watch it afterward. And it's everything you could have asked for. It's just amazing. It's the old meeting the new, Allison Felix, literally the GOAT, about to retire, Sydney McLaughlin, currently a GOAT, Athingmo, and then Muhammad, just icons, all of them iconic, and just everything you could ask from a relay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was some serious star power out there on that track that day. So, yeah, I agree with you there. And I tell you what, I about had a heart attack watching the 4x100 meter relay when, Jamaica and TT Terry was just trying to hold off Jamaica down there at the end. I was like an inch or two away from the screen, seeing who's gonna finish first. So. All right. Hey, listen, Molly, that's going to bring us to the end of our conversation. I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know firsthand that Amid's time is a precious commodity at the Academy, so thank you for carving out a little bit for me today and sharing some of your thoughts on the indoor track team as well as some of your personal experiences.
Thank you. It's been great. I love talking about track, especially Navy track, because, fun fact, I don't actually really watch sports. I don't even watch track and field, really. I just know the highlights and the world champs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been great. I love this. Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. So, I'll be following you guys, the rest of the season and into the spring. So, definitely looking forward to that. So take care.
Thank you.
All right. We are heading into the home stretch here. Coming up, we have our question of the day and our mid-watch segments. So please stick around. Okay, thanks for hanging with us here on Navy Sports Central, and it's time for our question of the day now. So as we always do, let's go ahead and check out the responses from our last question. Since 1952, the U.S. men's 8 crew has won 3 more gold medals at the Olympics. How many years went by between them winning the second and third one? Was it 32 years, 40 years, 48 years, or 52 years? And as far as the responses go, we had 21% of you go with 32 years, and we had 66% go with 40, and then we had 13% go with 52 years. Turns out that there were no takers on 48 years, which was a smart thinking, because the correct answer was in fact 40 years, and the time frame we're looking at there is between 1964 and 2004. So yeah, the U.S. men's 8 team ended that 40-year drought in Athens when they came through with the gold medal in that race. So now we can go ahead and get to this week's question. And as you heard our guest Molly Mangan talk about the relay races, that's going to be the subject here. So in the Navy track and field record book, they will have the top 10 performances of all time for every event. And I'm asking specifically about the 4x400 meter relay indoors. In how many of those top 10 times will you see Molly Mangan's name as part of the relay team? Is it 4, 5, 6, or 7? Again, that's 4, 5, 6, or 7. So I'm going to go ahead and post this to the Navy Sports Nation group Facebook page by the end of the day. You can answer there, or you can hit me up with an email at carld@navysportsnation.com. Okay, now we're down to our mid-watch segment, so let's go ahead and check in with our athletes there. We talked a little bit about Ellie Abraham already. You heard me say that in the sports update that she finished 7th. She was the second Navy finisher overall in the Patriot League Championship. So Abraham played a critical role in the Mids defending their title. Coming up next, she's got the indoor season where she mainly focuses on middle distance, specifically the medley relays. And then in the outdoor season, she's her strongest race is actually the 3,000 meter steeplechase. She's actually the defending Patriot League champion there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Ellie does in the indoor season and then again in the spring. And congratulations to her on a great fall campaign and helping the team secure that second consecutive Patriot League title in cross country. Meanwhile, men's golf team captain Keegan Shreves helped the Mids finish 6th out of 16 teams at the OBX ODU Invitational. That was a 3-day tournament that was held in Powell's Point, North Carolina. He was actually very consistent over the 3 days. He shot 72, 74, 73 to post a total score of 6 over par, and that was good for 27th place in a field of over 80 golfers. Shreves and the Mids will be back in action in the spring, where they will be looking to contend for a Patriot League championship. That's going to do it for this edition of Navy Sports Central. Thank you all so much for joining us. Now, if you like what you've heard, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and remember to spread the word to all the other Navy fans out there. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest Molly Mangan from the Navy women's track team and the class of 23. That was really a lot of fun hearing her experiences and getting her take on this year's indoor track team. We have been getting a great response to our question of the day, so if you want to jump in on that, just go to the Navy Sports Nation group Facebook page. I will go ahead and pin it to the top so you won't miss it. And just a quick reminder, the views expressed on Navy Sports Central are my own and do not reflect those of the U.S. Naval Academy or Navy Athletics. By the way, the music used in Navy Sports Central comes to you courtesy of Audio Jungle. This is a great site for purchasing the rights to use music from thousands of artists around the world, and those we feature in the podcast will be credited in our show notes. Talk to you soon, everybody. Until next time, this is Carl Darden. Go Navy, beat Army.